Hello. Okay, so I uploaded my first one, and I checked all the footage that I did for the second one, realized that this little container was muffling a lot of my voice. So I'm kind of redoing that episode, and so that's why you're going to see some things that are already done. It doesn't really defeat too much of the purpose. So let's do this. Alright, so let's pick up kind of where we left off. We have clippers. You need clippers. A nail file. Maybe a razor edge of some sort. And you have your box. So things that I have learned. Well, when you're doing this journey, and when I had done this recording earlier, I had put one together. So I'm going to redo that journey. Yay! Like I was saying, let's do some real quick things. First off, paintbrushes. I bought this at Target. Whip-de-doo. Nail files, a buff rag, came with this. It was like $10 for a full kit. You don't have to buy the hobbyist tools. Have I bought stuff for this hobby? Yes. Have I had time to really do anything with those items? No. Have I spent a lot of time, because I don't sleep well at night, and watching videos upon videos upon videos before beginning my journey? Yeah. Best things I could say out of all these videos I've watched is, number one thing I took away is prime before you paint and use the biggest brush to enhance stability or so that you can the biggest brush that you can use in order for you to learn how to control brushes. So with that, none of these are extra fine brushes, and we'll go through as much as I have learned so I can condense it to a better path forward when you're trying to do this hobby, because it's not this hobby. I mean, come on, you could paint figurines for D&D and many other things. Alright, we got our dwarves. There are a lot of different varieties on the back. Some of these, like with the boys, or not the boys, bad example, like orcs burners, I didn't know that they were looters, and I had to buy the looters box in order to get burners. It's kind of what all this is. The instructions. I cannot state this enough. Read the instructions. I know. You're above all that. You watch YouTube. You're intelligent. Cool. There are some nuances, and there are some eras and version differentiations between the different kinds of things. Like the dwarves, it seems very spun up in the new models. It doesn't have like little circle pegs. And I'll tell you, the little circle pegs, do not try to jam them in. You have to snip about a fifth of that tip off and go from there. And I wish I had an example of one. The next time I get one, they tend to come in those paint kits with a little peg, and it's a really, you'll know it when you see them. It's not oblong, it's not misshapen, it's not a little divot that goes into it that's a glue pit. It's a peg, and when you try to shove it in there, a few different things will happen. One, it won't sit all the way. Two, it might break off because you're trying to put too much pressure in there. Let's just put it this way: snip the tip, then stick it in. Done. All right. So, when you look these up, you may get confused. All the different heads. You'll see the shield up there, right? That shield up there means that you have a bunch of choices. A plethora in this box. In fact, with this one, you have the option of helmets, full visor down, versus faces. And if you are new to this game, I would not advise painting faces until you get comfortable. In fact, let's get into painting real quick. So, when it comes to painting, it didn't take me long to realize some things. There are 3 methods that come to the painting. 1, paint it on the sprue. Cool. You'll be painting a lot of duplicates because you won't know what you're building. You'll get the job done. However, the nice thing is that you'll have painted pieces, and you could probably use them in when you the term's kit bash other pieces from different boxes together, because this is all plastic. You can use this nail file and move an edge around, and you could probably stick a head on Tyranid if you really wanted to. So don't get hung up on it. Try to get smooth edges as best you can. The other version is put it together and then paint it. Well, thanks to the issue I had earlier with the camera, I have a put together dwarf, and I will show you how difficult that would be. So you see the little divot inside that guy, right? Yeah. Imagine this guy's little head is in here, and I'm just going to drop him in there. And you're trying to paint that little skull inside that little chassis, and you're a new beginner, and you're like, this, it might look like, yeah. It will never, you'll just eat yourself up all over and over. These little, they say it comes with a helmet little thing. I'm not going to stick it all the way in there. So, this gets me to my third thing. So my first one is you could either paint it on the sprue. The second one is what I would have to say 70% of the community does. Put them all together, then paint them. Alright. Let me give you the third option. And by the way, the instructions tend to tell you this at times if you pay attention. There'll be times that you'll come along. Let's see if it has it in this one. It does not. The last one I put together, because I haven't put together too much. Let's see. My history so far is I have bought the Orcs Combat Patrol and the Leviathan box. And someone picked me up my dwarves, and I was like, you know what? Let me regale people on a journey to know how to break into this and not feel overwhelmed. Again, I've never done any painting of this caliber. I think the most thing I've done is like stick figure for drawings. So my artistic scope is so if I can do it, you know, Bob Ross is right. All right, where were we? So my option. When you get to build your first figures together, start to think about how you want to paint things while you're doing this. You have to prime them. Speaking of which, even Bob Ross primes his canvases with white paint before he puts more white on his canvas. So, if you think you can get away with priming or not priming, by all means. You want to know what priming does? Primer is basically kind of like paint that is designed to stick to certain surfaces to allow paint to be painted on top of it. Just look it up. Look up what primer does. It's self-explanatory. All right. So we got the things out of the way. So what do? Well, something like this, I would prime like this. And then I would probably, if I'm going to use the head, I would prime it a different color. There's only really 5 colors to use for primer. One of them is other, and we could go through that real quick. And I'll tell you my reasons why. And I will teach you something about paint that you probably don't know. Yeah, well, you probably do. Who cares? So when it comes to painting, you have white, you have gray, and you have black. Ooh, okay. Oh, pretty simple. What are the other two? We'll get there. White is used to start from a blank canvas and use lots of heavy, vibrant colors because it's white. It's a background. You could pretty much use any color and start base coats and layerings. You may not know what that means yet. You'll get there. And I'm going to show you an example that might help you all together here in 2 seconds. Not literally. Black. Well, then you're doing the other direction. Just like when you use black paint on a canvas, you can bring the colors brighter. And since it's already got that natural dark underseam, every time you go to paint over the muscle that you can't get in that crack, it's going to look like it was intended because the black will highlight and accentuate the definitions. I'm hoping that that's starting to hit some muscle thinkies. The little rascals up in there, they spin the wheels. I'm an orc player, so I got Gretchen up here. The gray. The plastic itself is gray. That should lead you to where gray is. It's a good base coat of going either direction. So that's why those 3. And there are people out there like, well, if you do black at a base, and then you do gray, and then you do white. Sure, cool. It was too much, too advanced. Start with the basics. Pick one of them. Gray, I'd say, cool. Just start with gray. Get gray on gray and paint gray on it. At least you're painting. Believe me, if you think that there are multiple shades for everything. I went to go get white paint one day and my brain never returned. So what are the other 2? Okay. One of them is what I like to call like a deep red brownish color, kind of like your camo brown, or a really dirty brick color. And why? Why do I suggest a shade of brown? Well, if I want to bring out something that is very earth tone, or if I want to bring out rust colors, or if I want to bring out gore, that is a very wonderful undertone. And we could sit here all day about all the other colors. It really boils down to you can really get behind using shades of brown, matte brown, on vehicles and buildings and demons and all those things, and then really accentuate the red. And instead of starting at like a gloss red and bringing it down, you already have, kind of like what I said with the black, an underlined trim. Sure, whatever. So that's why I definitely would suggest those four. What is other? Other is everything else. It's as it sounds. You want more, if you want a Space Marine and you want to be blue, is start with blue gloss. And then work your way to different flavors of blue. If you're doing the Blood Angels, red gloss. You could probably find anywhere to use any color to help accentuate the speed and delivery of your painting. Or maybe you just want to prime it a close enough color and call it a day. I get you. In fact, that's one of the things that if I were to get into Space Marines, I probably would be like, well, I'm going to have 9 different flavors of primer, and I'm done. Because I don't know. So, what is it I was going to teach you? So, why the white, gray, and the black? If you're ever in that paint store, you're looking, or the hobby store, game store, comic store, whatever, you'll see all these paints. And they'll have their names, and it'll look like it's fading from color to color. Like this. As you can see. If I started with a white primer, if I started with a black primer, if I started with a gray primer, I'm hoping that right there exploded your mind in understanding, because it's simple. If you start off with, and I'm covering this part up because eventually I'll get to there, and I don't want you to start like, hey, this is an army paint thing, and I'm just covering up the name of what it is, but just so you can focus again: white primer, black primer, gray primer. And I would have to state that all your others and your brown tend to be whatever the gray is. It's just a good undercoat. You'll have different varieties. And you'll see that, like, on their label, the label would be like sideways, and it'll be like Abaddon black or base, or I'm trying to think of one, Mephisto red. Haha. And it'll say, it'll show like a shade. Well, why doesn't it show up for Mephisto red? Because it's a base. And that's where you start going, alright, I can connect the dots, I get it. Base is going to kind of have so many pigments in it, in it, that you'll be able to kind of override any primer color. And then you get layers and shades and contrast, and stick to the basics. Don't worry about how bad you paint it. Just have fun. This hobby, you can't go lightning speed. You buy a box, it'll take you a month. I started around July 4th. I didn't say that right. And it's almost 2 months later. 50 days. And it's a labor of love, because it is intense to put these little guys together, to prime them, to paint them, to fiddle with them. And if you start rushing, you'll start treating this like a job, and you won't have fun. And this I can't be frustrated at it, because it's a very cathartic. It's very cathartic for me, because I needed something. I suffer from PTSD. No shame in it. I was hell on my family when I got back, and this has been very wonderful for me to pour energy into, so I could be let's get to working before I start. So we got these things. You're going to have options for flavor. this one's built so that you've got all of the, and I don't know if I showed you, we're working with this. And by the way, if I start to get more people, I did put a Patreon. I don't know what I'm doing. I would love it if people would be like, yeah, make this model next. The painting, maybe not so much. I might get it primed, and I'll get to painting with you guys, because you'll see me go through the struggles, and you'll probably feel them, because, yeah, I wear everything on the shoulder type thing. All right. What we got here? Read this first. This right here, the blue variant assembly. So right here, it's got a blue and a green. Sometimes you'll see a blue, green, purple. I've seen a blue, green, purple, orange once. I'm sure there's more. With that, what'll happen is that you'll have this regular color, and then you'll be like, all right, choose which one. And then on the next page, it'll be like, all right, so follow blue. All right, follow green. All right, and you get the picture. So the shields are choice of parts. So I've got like 30-ish heads here in this display. And when I looked at it, there's also helmet visors instead of using the heads. There's only 10 miniatures in this box. So that means I have 20 extras. And that's when I start. And I cannot stress this enough. Don't go out and buy a shit ton. Don't do me. I did me for you. I spent, I want to say, stupid money getting into the hobby. And I'm good. I'm trying to help you curve the appetite, because you'll want to. And I get it. So, it's an empty container. It's got all my 40K bits and bobs. Look at all them. Nice, neatly packaged from little spare pieces. And now that I've gotten those things done, I'm probably going to turn this into my orc one, because one day I'll have another. Oh, it smells so nice. Smell? No? I like this in the game. Anyways, I might put a second Patreon on there and support my habit. You pay me what and if someone comes up with a suggestion for the next model, I'll do that. I don't know. Whatever. I'm talking out my ass. I'm getting ahead of myself. That's the word. Let's do this. Yes, I fidget a lot. Green is stage complete. 2 is repeat the up here. It'll say times 2, times 3, times 20, because how many times you're going to repeat this process. These little dry fit pegs, dry fitting. I cannot stress enough to dry fit twice before gluing. So with that, let's go ahead and do our second one, technically. And this is where you're just going to get confused at first. Like, okay, what does this all mean? Well, it means to do this times 1, then it gives you multiple different types of left arms, right arms, and it gives you a base on what you need to be doing. Some of them are a little bit weird, like number 6 here, it says to use 85, 86, so let's go ahead and do that one. We'll find 86 and 85, and I want to show you techniques. I'll bring this light a little bit closer. There we go. So, the nice thing about, one day we'll get there, in the front of these instructions, it will show you all the sprues. So make sure you have all the sprues. My friend bought Tau Combat Patrol. There was duplicates of one of the sprues in it. And because he used Amazon, that goes through Games Workshop. Games Workshop said, we don't use Amazon. Fuck off. The fact is there was a duplicate of a sprue. And it could happen to you. Manufacturings happen. Anyhow, 85. These are all numbered. Make sure you have it right side up and you don't confuse 9 with 9, because look at that. Look at that. Look at that. Do you know if that's a 9 or a 6? Bam. Look at that. Looks like a 6, right? But above it, obviously, you can tell. So I don't know why they didn't bother to put a little indent under it. So, the older ones did. I guess they realized that you'll probably look at the rest of the numbers and know that this is right side up. So it's 9, not a 6. Let's see, 85, 85, 85. Okay, found 85. Now, if you can't find a piece, breathe. Look again. Breathe. Start on a different one. And then you'll accidentally find it. I don't get why that works. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to use the back end of this clip, because there's too much space in here. And we're going to get right up flush to the plastic. And we're going to make sure we're not clipping pieces of the model. What you don't want to do is feel like you could do this. You see this? Oh yeah, it's just oh, I twisted it up. Don't do that. As much as it is, you could strip some of the plastic with it, lose some of it with it, even though it's really good plastic. And there's sometimes it'll crater in. There's all sorts of things that go wrong. Just snip it. Some people use X-Acto blades and they're pushing down and stuff. All power to you. I'm going to go right in here, and I'm going to get right there, and bam, done. Come in here, bam, come over here, and you notice I have a finger on this so that it could drop some, because there are times, let me see if I can do it, that I'll be like this, and I'll be like, okay, that wasn't bad. I'll pop something up and it'll go, bing! So I've learned to try to keep my finger somewhat on it, just so I could guide what direction it'll pop out. Especially when you're doing the tops of those pegs, it's like I'm like, flip. So we got our first piece. Yay! We need what was it? 86 now. This is where you get to watch me hunt. Ah, there's 86. So right there next to the shoulder, right? And I'm not going to sit here and hold this up to it all the time, because there we go. All right, so we got our first pieces. Now, if you see that right there, you don't want that there. You get burrs and spurs and all sorts of intelligent names for it. I like to use something that I can put enough pressure on that's not sharp enough, like the EXO thing I stabbed myself with already, and I get real close and I just got that little guy off there. Wasn't that difficult, was it? And I see that most of the mold, I feel it. I'm like, okay, that's good, that's good. And then come over here to this side. Now you could skip this step. You don't have to do this. Your pieces won't stick so flush together if you do that. Who am I to tell you what to do with your model? So there we go. See, be very careful. You see that little guy right there? You just gotta get that little guy off. And don't be afraid if you hit a little bit deep in that plastic. The paint's gonna cover most of it. And it's plastic. Cut a little deeper if you want. Make it look part of it. Battle wound it. Just get the little things that make it look like a toy off of it is what I'm getting at. And then you can grab your little file and just, there we go. Doesn't take much. And I'm sure there's be professionals that'll be like blah 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 down below. And I'm like, cool. I am solo journeying through this with an audience to know that this hobby is therapeutic. For me. Alright, so I got my things polished. You see how much time this is taking, right? So if you went out and bought all these, look at that. See? That's a dry fit. I didn't use any glue. Alright, then I'm doing it again. Why twice? Same reason. I'm sure most of the experts that play this game will probably be like, yeah, I can see why it says dry fit twice. You don't have to always do that. You could. I get it. It's the same thing as in carpentry. You measure twice, you cut once. Once I glue it, I have to do a whole mess of other things to take it apart. So, dry fit twice, glue once. That is what I'm saying. And you know what's wonderful? You see the little right there? Yeah. That's where you put the glue. It tells you. Looking at pictures is reading instructions. Read the instructions. Look at them. Or don't. Who cares? I mean, technically, you could glue all the pieces, shove it on a thing, spray paint it, and say, this is my unit, and just put it on the battlefield and call it art. Oh. Now, glue. There are people who use specialty glue. There are there's 3 kinds of glue types that I can state that I would recommend. The first one is not so much a recommendation. I mean, it's okay. Let me get to the answers. First off, if you're ever using these glue and you're like, go backwards, and it twists down, and then it unlocks the damn thing, and then you could, yeah. The first one I would suggest is this. I like this stuff. It puts out a nice little, let me use this. Puts out a nice little spread, and it's a mixture between the worlds of what people suggest to use. They'll suggest to use super glue. They'll suggest to use hot glue. They'll suggest to use modeling cement glue. whatever floats your boat, because honestly, at the end of the day, when the thing breaks or falls or you're putting it together and your attention span on how long you want to hold a piece is going to be relative to you, no one else. It's your experience. You get to have this fun. You get to say, I used super glue, I used hot glue. If you use hot glue, by the way, be wary of extreme heat. I am down in the recesses of Florida, so heat's an issue. I have a friend who hot glues, and some of his figurines were like falling off their stand when he got to my place one day. We laughed, and yeah, because he doesn't have air conditioning in his car. All right, so I've got a piece of it together. I've done my suggestions about glue. I've said my things about primer paint. Filing. Cool. I've actually remembered a lot of things that cut out. I had done this episode a few times now, and I'm hoping this one comes out. One of them I started getting very analytical and stuff like that. Either way, we're here now. Next, we need something I would suggest is like you can get those reading things that prop up your instructions. I have one in the room. I was just trying to freelance this one to let you know you can do it without anything. Oh, excuse me. And I know most of the community would be against me by saying this. Actually, here's my top. Before I get flamed, let me state my statements. Have you ever bought a Nintendo or a PlayStation or a gaming console? How much did that run you? Depending on what you bought, it was probably around $200 to $500. I know an Oculus costs a pretty penny these days. Alright. So if you're getting new into this hobby, stop turning people away from the Leviathan. It's the console that they need. It gives them the books, it gives them the cards, it gives them the tokens, it gives them 100 extra pages that aren't in the core book. Because I bought both of them, not knowing. I bought the 10th edition core separately, and the Leviathan has 100-ish more pages in it. It's good for a beginner. You get to build a bunch of Marines and a bunch of Tyranids, and you can play the internal game. It's Super Mario and Nintendo and Duck Hunt. You got your basics. Now, from there, get into some juicy lore. Figure out which one you want. There's plenty. I think Bricky had an episode even of like it was 2 parts. Yeah, it had 2 parts, and there's like 40-something armies to go through. It's ridiculous. Find whatever catches your boat, and then buy its. Did it start over? And then buy its the combat patrol. You're new to the game. It won't matter. Alright? I'm going to pause here and find out what crashed in the other room. And probably pick this up again tomorrow. I know we only got through this part of it. We will finish one. This is a slow journey. You're going to have plenty of times where you're not going to finish it. Only thing I'd say is put it away, keep some Ziploc bags near you, and tidy up your mess at the end of the day, and enjoy it.